relations. We've talked about integration, which is very key. We've also talked about the human resource, focus on the human resource. Right now, I'd like to talk about education. Yes, East Africa and Africa at large, we have, for the most part, inherited a colonial education. An education that is geared to meet the needs of a colonial master. That was to enable people to read and write, to communicate, to do clerical work, yes, to cram and be able to repeat, to cognitive and memory. Yes, but we do not have an education system that speaks to our vision as a people, as a nation. We don't have an education system that answers our problems, our needs. You rightly mentioned that Uganda, at the time of independence, we were at par with South Korea. South Korea is a nation which prides itself as being the 10th largest economy in the whole world.
10th?
Number 10 in the whole world. A small country of the name South Korea, which was comparable to Uganda's economy in the 1960s, today is the 10th largest economy. They did not discover any resources. At the time of, in the 60s, their major export was human hair.
Human hair?
Yes, they were exporting human hair to be made of, as wigs for us people, the black Americans,
Yes,
the black Americans.
Yes,
so who want to look like white people. These are the root problems that I've been trying to talk about. A need for mindset change, a need for self-esteem, for the African to stand and value themselves and not try to use other people as crutches, not look at other people as their Father Christmas, as their Santa Claus, because there's no such a thing as a free lunch. Whenever they come here, they come to exploit us. So South Korea today is number 10 in GDP in the whole world. And they have got an education system that is tailored for their vision as a manufacturing hub. Their work is to manufacture. And today, 70% of all graduates from South Korea are in the technical fields, in the vocational fields. Why? Because they want to meet the demand in their manufacturing sector. South Korea is proud of brands like Samsung. Samsung alone has got a GDP of $200 billion. One company, $200 billion. That's equivalent to almost the GDP of the whole of East Africa. Over $200 billion. GDP of Eastern Africa is around 250 billion. So you have Samsung, you have LG, you have Daewoo, you have Hyundai, you have Kia, just to mention a few. And these are propelling an economic giant. So the education system in South Korea has been tailored to meet that manufacturing vision, and therefore they are able to boast a GDP that I think is comparable to the whole of Africa. It's in the trillions of dollars. So what Africa needs to do is redesign our education system. There are a few modest changes that have been made in some of our curriculum, our syllabus, but it is not enough. It is not visionary. We are still learning things which will not at the end of the day add value to us as a nation. And we spend a lot of money educating our children. Educating our children so that they can come and tell us about speak and grant. And talk about the history of Europe, about Napoleon Bonaparte. Yes? And our education system, even when we learn relevant things, they are not addressing the current needs or the current vision of the nation. Today, many of us will agree that where the world is, we are living in a society that has become more and more computerized.
The technology, the digital era.
Digital era. And some countries have incorporated computer programs in their syllabus, in their education system. In Uganda here, it is mostly at university level. But why can't we introduce, for example, coding? Yes? Computer programming and coding from primary level.
From primary level.
Yes, because this is the future. This is where we are going. Why don't we address our education system to meet demands in agriculture? Because we are an agriculture-based nation. Why must we get solutions from the World Bank, from the IMF, from these people whose sole role is to make a coin from us?
They're interested to give us more loans.
They are interested in giving us more loans. The financial system, the global financial system, wants you to get loans, and not loans to make you better, but loans that will keep you subservient, dependent. Just like any bank here, a commercial bank. They give you a loan, and they want you to pay the highest interests possible. They want you to come back tomorrow for another loan to take care of the previous loan, so that you are continuously indebted. Yes. So there is need for us to begin to do things that are pragmatic. We cannot keep our feet in the past, our minds in the past, our children and our future in the past. There is need for us to break away from this colonial mindset, infrastructure, and to move on with solutions.
I appreciate you, and I'm referring us back to where you had reached in our review of looking at these different countries which have excelled better than us. And we look at the country which is in our neighborhood, the Tanzania, Republic of Tanzania. Then also we also look at Kenya. Kenyan economy, which is around 124 billion US dollars. But leaving that aside, we are having a reference of some of the leaders who seem to have had Africa at heart. I say seem because meaning I'm not bringing my actual realistic point of view. It is subject to our discussion. One of them, and unfortunately he passed on, we refer to the late Gaddafi of Libya.
Muammar
Gaddafi. And it seems to be that his economy, before he got a serious attack by the Westerners, was progressing well, because the economy of Libya was ranging among the middle income economies, of which even the world economies were a bit, putting in a camera, following to see how this gentleman was doing his work. And yet his policies, the policies back home, for the years he had spent, some they had issues, others they were being appreciated. It is believed the education was doing well, the health systems were doing well, but the current trend of democracies, it seems that was lacking, and which seems also to have opened an avenue for those who can easily either interfere or intervene. I'm leaving it at that. Then you look at the well-appreciated leaders who also are normal, that we're having Africa at heart, because this is not a topic I'm talking about today, it's not my own invention. The late Mzee Nelson Mandela, may his soul rest in eternal peace. For him, in his aspiration, sacrifices he offered for the freedoms, to gain back the freedom and the power of the South Africans back into their hands, was not interested for a lengthy period of time of leadership. He only came for 5 years and said, this is what we wanted. We end the rule of the whites and the too much, oppression of the black, which was ranging around the cycles, the dissatisfaction of the apartheid policy. For him, it was only, he wanted only 5 years. We look at Gaddafi. Gaddafi was saying, no, a revolutionary does not retire. And for him, was believing to rule for more years, and at the same time was believing that we can, is another proponent of Africa must unite. But yet, when you compare with his style of leadership with others, it was not at the same pace. We are still moving forward. I'm also able to recall the late Mwalimu Julius Nyerere of Kenya.
Tanzania.
Yes, of Tanzania. This one is called Mwalimu, and I heard that they even gave him a title of a saint. Because for him, the man was selfless, wanted to see Tanzanian people being treated as a guy with social justice. We go to Kenyatta, Jomo Kenyatta, or Mzee, the late. And we refer to countries like, of course, Ghana, and also Botswana. Botswana, I'm hearing like how you are now a prof here. When you go to Botswana, you not come back. The way how they are being paid and the education environment there to deliver service, it is quite attractive. What remains unrealized among these historical founders of the vision of Pan-Africa, which were intending to liberate Africa from these socio-economic challenges, what remained a missing gap? Why did they not achieve it? And up to now, we are struggling to achieve it.
Okay.
We'll have like 3 minutes, then we'll go for a break. But this is a serious matter, and I want us to exhaust it, sir, if you allow us.
No, we will.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, so you have mentioned quite a number of nations and historical figures. And we can draw examples from each of them. Yes, but not forgetting our foundation or our primary challenges that we mentioned. If we are to refer to Muammar Gaddafi, in my opinion, Libya was even doing better than many of these Western countries, because in his time there was no homeless person in Libya. Every Libyan was accommodated. When you talk about a first world like USA, which everybody admires, there are over 6 million homeless people. In 6 million homeless people, over 6 million homeless people
In USA.
in USA. But Libya did not have even one homeless person. Every Libyan was entitled to education, to health care. Those who were not employed were given a stipend, a monthly allowance. At the time of death, Muammar Gaddafi was even thinking of sharing the revenue collected among the citizenry. That's novel. Yeah, but the issue of socio-economic challenges in Africa, as we said, are traced to the past. And until we can deal with these root problems, we will stay in circles chasing our tails. Because you know what happened to Libya. You know what happened to Muammar Gaddafi. He was a progressive leader in Africa. He was an icon, someone who was calling on African unity. And the Western powers which are benefiting from the status quo did not enjoy this.
1 second as we go for the break. Do you think it was genuine and maybe of a good approach to have maintained a path of believing that the welfare of Libya was entirely to rely on him by ensuring that he controls the leadership authority for years and years, and maybe until his nomad brings his son and so forth in our day-to-day approaches of democracy and transformation leadership? What is your take on that?
Well, I must acknowledge that, like every human being, Muammar Gaddafi had his shortcomings. But at the end of the day, history has judged him as a better leader. Because right now, his son was contesting to take over the leadership of the country. The very son everybody demonized and wanted to kill after his father. It is because the nation realized that Muammar Gaddafi, after all, was not their enemy. He was their friend. This issue of democracy, and our president used to say that there are different forms of democracy. You have, he used to compare it with water. Democracy can be in liquid form, can be in solid form, can be in vapor form. These are the different states of water. And so they cannot be looked at necessarily copy-paste. The Western democracy is functional because of the economics that support it. Roughly 80% of the people in the Western world are wealthy. They are rich. They are provided for. And therefore, they can have a collective voice behind a government. It is possible to have a government by the majority. It is possible to have human rights. It is possible to have the rule of law.
Independent institutions.
Independent institutions. Why? Because 80% of the population are wealthy. They are rich. But when you come to Africa, the reverse is true. 20% are rich, are wealthy. 80% are mostly poor.
So the packaging of a democracy should be modified.
Yes, because what we have in Africa is us trying to get a copy-paste system which is working pretty well in the Western world, but which is hard to embrace here. Because think about a family. Let's break this down to a family. If you have a family of 10 people and you bring at home 2 buns, 2 buns, bread, this small round bread, and you say, let's pray and share this for supper, you will probably have a problem there because of the little resources. However, if you have plenty, then you can have grace and you can have a proper resource sharing.
That
That is what
we
democracy
are going
is.
for the short break. This is becoming controversial, but again realistic to the way our professor is bringing it, the packaging of a democracy, because it seems to be, and it's a reality, that democracy, these governance approaches seems to be associating also to the socioeconomic challenges the region and the continent has faced. And we'll go into the in-depth of it to emerge the two, because the decision making, it is all that causes this decision making. And the moment we don't address this decision making concerns, we will remain the way we are. And not all of us shall be decision makers, but we are part of the decision making trend. And all citizens are supposed to be part of this. The citizen participation is part of the issue I will be concerned with in our next session as we give some substantive recommendations. Stay tuned. See you in the next session. After our commercial break, we'll be able to go into that discourse. God bless you.